Good evening, everyone. I welcome you to these online lectures. So, we are in the paper Environmental Education. So, this is the third unit, Environmental Management and Protection. So far, we have dealt with the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan in the first unit, Environmental Education in the second unit. Now, in the third unit, we are dealing with the Environmental Management and Protection. Environmental management is an attempt to control human impact on and the interaction with the environment in order to preserve natural resources. Environmental management focuses on the improvement of human welfare for present and future generations. Environmental management is a systematic approach to finding practical ways for saving water, energy, and materials, and reducing negative environmental impacts. And coming to environmental protection, it is a practice of protecting the natural environment on individual, organization control, or government levels for the benefit of both the environment and humans. Due to the pressures of the overconsumption, population, and technology, the biophysical environment is being degraded, sometimes permanently. This has been recognized, and governments have begun placing restraints on activities that cause environmental degradation. Excuse me. The concept of environmental management. The ecological balance and ecosystems, the stability must be maintained by the nature itself. But the emergence of modern industrial era has disturbed the ecological balance through heavy industrialization, technological revolution, faster growth of means of transportation, rapacious exploitation of resources, unplanned urbanization, etc. The broader objectives of environmental management include identification of the environmental problems and finding a solution, to restrict and regulate the exploitation and utilization of the natural resources, to regenerate the degraded environment and to renew natural resources, to control environmental pollution and degradation, to reduce the impacts of extreme events and natural disaster, to make optimum utilization of natural resources, to assess the impact of proposed projects and activities on environment, to review and revise the existing technologies and make them eco-friendly, to formulate laws for the implementation of environmental protection and conservation programs. The environmental management consists of three levels, such as the global level, national level, and the local level. And coming to the scope of environmental management, environmental perception and public awareness should be the objective of this management. Environmental education and training, the resource management, control of environmental degradation and pollution, environmental impact assessment, these are all the issues that are dealt under the scope of, within the purview of the environmental management. And coming to the need for environmental management, the need to study environmental management is an important perspective in the current scenario. Environmental stress is becoming severe day by day, and the degradation of environment poses a serious threat to humanity. The need for environmental management include the use of resources to overcome the environmental crisis, for the economic needs and values, to reduce the disasters, to decide the limitations of environment and the development. And coming to the functions and the characteristics of the environmental management, the responsibilities include environmental licensing, enforcement of the environmental laws, environmental planning, education and guidance, monitoring, analyzing and reporting on the environment, regulating world's greenhouse gas emissions, waste management, strategic environmental assessment, environmental research development, radiological protection. And coming to the characteristics of the environmental management, it supports the sustainable development. It demands the multidisciplinary approach. The environmental management has to integrate different developmental viewpoints. Environmental management seeks to integrate natural and social sciences. Environmental management can extend from short term to long term and from local to global levels. So here we have these issues which pertain to the environmental management throughout the world, particularly in the developing countries. These are urgent need for the management of the total environment. In brief, the environmental management is necessary for environmental planning, which implies the optimal utilization of the Earth's resources and preservation of the quality of environment for the healthy growth of society. Thank you. Welcome back. We are in the third unit of the paper Environmental Education. So in this lecture, we are going to discuss the dimensions of the environmental management, the factors responsible for flora and fauna extinction. Environmental management is the management of the interaction and impact of human societies on the environment. It is an issue of increasing concern, and it determines the nature of people, animals, plants, and places around the earth. Environmental management can be viewed from a variety of perspectives. It covers many areas in the science, including geography, biology, physics, chemistry, sociology, psychology, and physiology. The factors that are responsible for flora and fauna extinction are the environmental conditions and the changes in the climate that take place, eventually due to pollution, greenhouse gases, degradation, etc. Flora and fauna means plants and animals. The word flora is used to discuss plant life, while the word fauna refers to animal life. This term is often applied to a specific biome, ecosystem, or place, such as the flora and fauna of the particular area. Human activity to cause the greatest extinction of living things, the man-made environmental destruction, and the extinction of life on the Earth's environment quickly than the evolutionary change, both climate change and the natural disasters. Changes due to the climate change take place gradually. The global effects, excuse me, the global effects of the destruction of flora and fauna can be seen anywhere as distinctly as in our rainforests. Man's destruction of the ecosystems in his quest for money and power has created a world in which the ecological balance of flora and fauna has been destroyed, in many instances causing the extinction of entire species due to destruction of habitat and food sources. Excuse me. The global actions cause the local consequences. The world's ecology is so complex, so fragile, and so interdependent that an ecological upheaval of the flora and fauna of one region of the world can affect the entire planet. Global trade has introduced species to areas outside of their natural habitat, where there are no predatory species to control them and their destructive habits. Urban expansion has destroyed wild habitat areas as well, and is a primary factor in the endangerment of many plant species. Even the global warming, the pollution, hunting and trade, invasive species have become a threat to the environment, and they are causing a damage to the plant life and to the wildlife. Coming to the measures to conserve flora and fauna, causes for forest fire, measures of prevention. Flora, as we have said, is basically the plant life that is present in a particular region, and fauna is the animal life that is present in a particular region. And biodiversity is a very large topic and somewhat difficult to define adequately in only a sentence or two. In the very simplest terms, biodiversity means the diversity of life on our planet, which includes genetic diversity, species diversity, and the habitat diversity. India is a land of varied flora and fauna and biodiversity. India is one of the 12 mega diverse nations of the world. Two of the India's greatest mountain ranges, the Eastern Himalayas and the Western Ghats, have been designated among the world's 18 hotspots of biodiversity. The flora of India. Many believe that only the animals are endangered, but even the endangerment is connected with the plant life. And coming to the fauna of India, it has the world's most biodiverse regions. The wildlife is considered to be one of the rich heritages of the nation. And conservation of the plant life and wildlife, that is the flora and fauna. The need for conservation in India is often questioned because of the apparently incorrect priority in the face of dire poverty of the people. However, Article 48 of the Constitution of India specifies that the state shall endeavour to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forests and wildlife of the country. And Article 51A states that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. The conservation projects have been established to preserve them, but some species, such as the rarest of the rare species, were in endangerment. And next, coming to the causes for forest fire and also the measures of prevention. The event of something burning is called as fire. An uncontrolled fire often occurring in wild land areas, but which can also consume houses or agricultural resources, is called as the forest fire. Wildfires tend to be the most common and severe during the years of drought and occur on days of strong winds. With extensive urbanization of the forest lands, these fires often involve destruction of suburban homes located in the wild and urban interface, a zone of transition between the developed areas and undeveloped wild land. The term forest fire is also called as the wildfire, which refers to all uncontrolled fires that burn surface vegetation, the grass, the weeds, the grain fields, the bushes, the tundras, the forest and the wildlands. In addition to the wildfires, several million acres of forest land are intentionally burned every year under controlled conditions to accomplish some silvicultural or other land use objective or for hazard reduction. The causes for these forest fires are the natural causes caused by the lightning and fires caused by the volcanic eruption. The accidental causes, fires caused by the spark from wheels of trains or certain locomotives, and other causes. The next cause is negligence. Fire thrown by the matchsticks, cigarette stubs alongside the roadways. Fires caused by the agricultural and forestry activities. Fires caused by other forms of negligence, by the firecrackers, rockets, blasting of the landmines, or explosives. There are two types of the forest fires: surface fire and the crown fire. A forest fire may burn primarily as a surface fire, spreading along the ground of a surface litter. And the other type of forest fire is the crown fire, in which the crown of trees and shrubs burn, often sustained by a surface fire. So, these will result in global warming, the rising of the temperature, the depletion of the ozone layer, loss of the flora and fauna, degradation of water catchment areas, loss of water, loss of valuable timber resources, loss of biodiversity, etc. And the prevention and control measures for forest fires in India is, first of all, the identification and mapping of all fire catching areas or the fire prone areas must be done. Compilation and analysis of the data must be done. Installation of the forest danger rating systems and the fire forecasting systems must be done. Recruiting a nodal officer to coordinate with various agencies. Communication network to be set up for quick flow of information. Such preventive measures must be taken at all levels so that it must be an alarm to the entire community. Thank you. Welcome back. We are in the third unit of the environmental education. In this lecture, we shall deal with the major environmental problems in India and the environmental protection policies in India. Coming to the major environmental problems, we are facing various environmental problems. It is essential to get the country acquainted with these challenges so that their acts may be eco-friendly. And some of the challenges are the population explosion. The growing population leads to the environmental problems. Poverty. India has often been described as a rich land with poor people. This poverty of our people are directly dependent on the natural resources. Even the population growth is essential function of poverty, because to the very poor, every child is an earner and helper, and global concerns have little relevance for him. Agricultural growth. The people must have been acquainted with the methods to sustain and increase agricultural growth with damaging the environment. A need for the groundwater. It is essential of rationalizing the use of groundwater. Factors like community waste, industrial effluents, and chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Excuse me. Have polluted our surface water. It affected quality of the groundwater. The development and the forests. Forests serve as catchments for the rivers. with the increasing demand of water, plan to harness the mighty river through large irrigation projects were made. Certainly, these would submerge forests, displacing local people, damaging the flora and fauna. The degradation of the land, reorientation of the institutions, reduction of genetic diversity, evil consequences of the urbanization, air and water pollution. These have become the environmental problems in our country. And there were certain policies made for the development of the or the enrichment of the environment. In the Directive Principles of State Policy, Article 48 and 51A, which we have dealt in the previous lecture, will serve in protecting the environment. In addition to that, the Convention of Biological Diversity, CBD, the Indian Wildlife Protection Act of the 1972, and the National Forest Policy of 1988, and the Environment Act or the Environment Protection Act of the year 1986 have been well equipped in the protection of the environment in India. The National Environment Policy has been motivated by the considerations of the environmental concerns and the objectives of environmental policy. The conservation of the critical environmental resources, such as the critical ecological systems and resources, the invaluable natural and man-made heritage, which are essential for the life support, livelihood, economic growth, and a broad conception of human well-being. The intergenerational equity and even the intragenerational equity will support the environmental development of the country. Excuse me. Major environment policies and legislations in India. The Ministry of Environment and Forests is the nodal agency. It is an administrative structure of the central government. The Central Pollution Control Board these are all statutory bodies to improve the quality of air and prevent, control, or abate air pollution in the country. Legislations and rules for the protection of environment in India include the water pollution, air pollution, environment protection, wildlife conservation, forest conservation, biodiversity, National Green Tribunal, and the animal welfare. These policies and the legislative rules are very useful in protecting the environment. Thank you. Welcome back. We are in the third unit of the paper Environmental Education. In this unit we shall see the need and objectives of conservation, environmental conservation measures, natural resources, economically referred to as land of raw materials, occur naturally within environments that exist relatively undistributed and undisturbed by mankind in a natural form. Natural resources are derived from the environment. Many of them are essential for our survival, while others are used for satisfying our wants. We need to conserve our natural resources because it is the main source of our daily needs. We need to conserve it because they are limited. We need to understand that our natural resources are limited and over-exploitation will harm not only us but the coming generations. And coming to the objectives of the conservation, development and sustainable management of natural resources, including their use, enhancement of agricultural productivity and production in sustainable manner, a restoration of restoration of ecological balance in the degraded and fragile ecosystem by trees and grasses, a reduction in regional disparity between irrigated and rain-fed areas. Coming to the environmental conservation measures taken in India, conservation of natural resources has become a serious issue in today's world, which is being engulfed by the forests of concrete day by day. The vast expanse of the world's forest cover is being used by industrialists today to manufacture commercial products, leaving little space for the wildlife to dwell upon, paving the path for their endangered nature in the world. Several measures have been taken by our government to counter the flow of deforestation and poaching, like the Wild Protection Act of 1972 and Forest Conservation Act of 1980, the Biological Diversity Act of the year 2002. Excuse me. Although such measures have been introduced and some commendable results have been achieved, the implementation on ground level has not been up to the mark in majority of the areas due to low level of surveillance and local public support. The government needs to put the issue of environment conservation on a priority basis. Measures taken in India. The strategy of prevention consists of raising public awareness, strict enforcement of the laws, statutory assessment of environmental problems. Strict laws must be rigorously implemented. The statutory environmental impact assessment of all the projects must be done. Excuse me. Destruction can also be prevented by regenerating nature and increasing the productivity of the ecosystems. And here, waste management has been an useful criteria in the environmental management and protection. Waste management means collecting, transporting, processing, recycling, and monitoring of the waste materials. The other day, in the previous lectures, we have seen that recycle, reduce, and reuse are the three issues which are to be followed with a great concern in order to achieve the environmental growth. The term waste management generally relates to those materials which are produced by human activity and is usually undertaken to reduce the effect of these activities on their health and environment. Waste management is also useful to recover useful resources from the waste. Waste management involves all solid, liquid, and gaseous or radioactive substances which are managed with different methods and expertise is required for each of them. So coming to the waste management, we shall see the types of waste materials. Generally, waste consists of liquid or solid waste, and there are certain other hazardous materials which can be considered as very harmful one. The organic waste, the recyclable type, and the methods of the waste disposal is the landfill, combustion, incineration, recovery and recycling, and also plasma gasification, composting, waste minimization, the bottom line, etc. And advantages of waste management is this practice is highly lucrative, keeps the environment clean and fresh. Waste management saves the earth and conserves energy, reduces environmental pollution. Waste management will help us to earn money. It creates employment. And coming to the disadvantages of waste management, the process is not always cost effective. The resultant product has a high priority but a short life. The waste management sites are often dangerous. Excuse me. The practices are not done uniformly. The waste management can cause more problems. And the next thing is the alternative sources of energy, such as the solar energy, which we can store energy in a solar panel, that is a photovoltaic cells, wind energy, geothermal energy, hydroelectric energy, biomass energy, tidal energy or the ocean energy, hydrogen energy. So as we all know, solar energy is the most happening criteria for the renewable energy sources. The wind energy is also renewable energy sources. And the geothermal energy can be found anywhere on earth. And the hydroelectric energy biomass energy, etc. Coming to the concept of organic farming. Organic farming system in India is not new and is being followed from ancient time. It is a method of farming system which primarily aimed at cultivating the land and raising crops in such a way as to keep the soil alive and in good health by use of organic waste such as crop, animal and farm waste, aquatic waste, and other biological materials, along with beneficial microbes, biofertilizers to release nutrients to crops for increased sustainable production in an eco-friendly, pollution-free environment. Need of the organic farming is with the increase in population or compulsion would be not only in stabilizing the agriculture production but to increase it further in sustainable manner. The scientists have realized that the green revolution with high input use has reached a plateau and is now sustained with diminishing return of falling dividends. So protecting the long-term fertility of the soil while maintaining organic matter levels, encouraging soil biological activity, and careful mechanical intervention is the key concept or the characteristic of the organic farming. The extensive management of the livestock, paying full regard to their evolutionary adaptations, behavioral needs, and animal welfare issues with respect to nutrition, housing, health, breeding, and rearing of the animal stock. The advantages of organic farming are no poison is always great. It is closely regulated, and this organic farming yields better taste and more nutrition. The costs are lowered. The environment doesn't suffer. And disadvantages of organic farming are it's a whole lot more work. The consumer pays the price. And the crossbreeding may happen in organic farming. Coming to the rain water harvesting. In the present scenario, management and distribution of water has become centralized. As the water crisis continues to become severe, there is a dire need to reform the water management system and revival of traditional systems. The term rainwater harvesting is being frequently used nowadays. However, the concept of water harvesting is not new for India, but the water harvesting techniques have been evolved and developed centuries ago. Groundwater resources get naturally recharged through circulation, but due to indiscriminate development and rapid urbanization, exposed surface or soil has been reduced drastically, with the resultant reduction in percolation of rainwater. Surface runoff harvesting. The rooftop rainwater harvesting These are the two types of harvesting the rain water. So here, by these, the groundwater recharge can be achieved. Recharging groundwater aquifers such as the bore wells, dug wells, pits, trenches, recharge shafts, soakways, percolation tanks, etc. The water, the groundwater recharge is done effectively by the rainwater harvesting. And advantages of the rainwater harvesting is it can be maintained easily and we can reduce our water bills, reduce the demand of groundwater. It is suitable for irrigation, reduce floods and soil erosion. Can be used for several non-drinking purposes. Disadvantages of the rainwater harvesting. So unpredictable rainfall, initial investment at the high cost, regular maintenance, and the cost effectiveness of the roof types, the storage limits. Coming to the rainwater harvesting techniques. There are so many benefits I have seen in capturing the groundwater runoff, which will help in preservation of the groundwater resources. Even the community participation in the natural resource management, water and forest is very much important. Community participation is a planned process whereby local groups are clarifying and expressing their own needs and objectives and taking collective action to meet them. The local groups or communities mean people who have something in common that they share with each other. It is recognized that public participation in resource management is an important mechanism to ensure environmentally sustainable development. The participation must have the social reach, the functional reach, and the decision power of the participants, the direction of the participation, the intentions and motivation to participate. Community-based natural resource management (CBNRM) refers to the collective use and management of natural resources in rural areas. They are a group of people with a self-defined distinction identity using community-owned facilities. the community participation in the forest management. Here we have the joint forest management in which forestry departments and the communities jointly manage forests and share rights and responsibilities. The JFM, Joint Forest Management strategy, has required a change of attitude from both forest departments and the rural communities. The participation is a process in which information on a planned project is made available to the public. This type of participation often involves only community leaders. These people are consulted, but decision-making power rests with the external planners and the project implementers. Likewise, we see the acceptance of the public as a valued partner in this process can inspire the cooperation between citizens, their government, and industries that is crucial to the success of a regulatory system. Thank you. The constitutional amendments made and the environmental laws. It is the duty of every citizen to protect and improve natural environment. In the Constitution of India, it is clearly stated that it is the duty of the state to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and the wildlife of the country. It imposes a duty on every citizen to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife. The constitutional provisions are backed by a number of laws, acts, rules, and notifications. So here we see a list of environmental legislations that have come into effect. It's a general forest and wildlife, water, air, etc. Coming to the general legislations, the Environmental Protection Act of the year 1986, the Environmental Protection Rules of the year 1986, the Manufacture, Use, Import, Export and Storage of Hazardous Microorganisms of the year 1989, the Public Liability Insurance Act, excuse me, the Rules and Amendments of the year 1991. 1992 was drawn up to provide for public liability insurance for the purpose of providing immediate relief to the persons affected by accident while handling any hazardous substance. The National Environmental Tribunal Act of the year 1995, the National Environment Appellate Authority Act of the year 1997, the Biomedical Waste of the year 1998. The Municipal Solid Waste Management and Handling Rules of the year 2000, the Noise Pollution Regulation Act of the year 2002, the Biodiversity Act of the year 2002. And coming to the Forest and Wildlife, the Indian Forest Act and Amendment of the year 1927 and the amendment in 1984, the Wildlife Protection Act of the year 1972, the Forests Conservation Act of the year 1980. Water, the Easement Act of the year 1882, the Fisheries Act of the year 1897, excuse me, 1897, the River Boards Act of the year 1956, the Merchant Shipping Act of year 1970, the Central Pollution Control Board, which was constituted in the year 1977, and even there are certain Factories Act which are related to the air pollution. The Factories Act of the year 1948 and the amendment in the year 1987. The Motor Vehicles Act of the year 1988. All these acts and legislation will help us in safeguarding the environment if utilized in a better way.